With the coronavirus suspending the NBA season, the fans, the players, coaches, and owners were all feeling the struggle of not being able to watch and play the game that they love. Eventually, the NBA did come back to play a shortened version of the playoffs, which had the Los Angeles Clippers walking out as the champions, winning against the Philadelphia 76ers team that was able to get healthy again over the break. Winning his third Finals MVP, with his third different team, Kawhi Leonard showcased his true championship DNA, proving his grit and determination to win in the biggest moments. Even with the NBA season ending on a positive note, everyone still felt a bit down, having not been able to play out a full season with the long break in the middle. So NBA Commissioner Adam Silver decided to do something that might excite the fans and create some new publicity around the NBA. Before the start of the off-season, it was announced that there would be a new expansion team being added to the NBA. Many fans wanted to see a team added to Seattle or to Las Vegas. However, with the short time frame of this whole expansion process, neither city was able to get a deal worked out with the NBA. Then came in a largely unknown tech billionaire who lives in Richmond, Virginia. While nobody knew who he was, Emmett Grigson was a longtime fan of the NBA. He went to many games and had always wanted to see a professional team in his hometown of Richmond, Virginia. He really started to get interested in the NBA when they had an expansion team join in 2004 in nearby Charlotte, North Carolina. He instantly became a fan of the Bobcats, who were owned by a basketball legend, Michael Jordan, and always felt bad that they didn't have more success before changing their name to the Hornets in 2014. With trying to decide a name for this new expansion team in 2020, he couldn't think of a better idea than the Richmond Bobcats, paying homage to where his love for the NBA began. After selling their tech company, Emmett Grigson and his then partner, Xavier Lyman, took very different paths. Emmett was bound and determined to make smart investments with his money. He had grown up without his parents, bouncing around from foster home to foster home and living in many rough neighborhoods. He eventually worked his way up to building a company he was proud of. But deep down, he always wanted more. He always wanted to win at everything, at whatever the cost. Xavier Lyman, on the other hand, had grown up in a rich family, always got what he wanted, and money had never been an issue for him. The two of them met when they attended school at Harvard University. Emmett had gotten there on an academic scholarship, and Xavier had been accepted mostly because it was his dad's alma mater, and his dad had donated some money for them to build a high-tech computer facility on campus. Needless to say, these direct opposites met in one of their classes their first year at school and ended up hitting it off. They would spend late nights working on coding for this project they thought would be fun, and didn't even realize that they would sell their work for a ton of money in the future. Where Emmett was making solid investments and continuously trying to make more money, Xavier took a different route when they sold the company. Xavier had worked hard during his college years, not getting the opportunity to go out and party and have fun like many of their peers did. So, he decided since he had more money than he could ever spend, he would blow off some steam and travel around the world, having crazy adventures. He had many long benders turn into waking up in a jail cell though, but his money and having the best lawyers always got him out of whatever trouble he was in. That didn't stop the media from always talking about the nerdy tech billionaire turned bad boy. Although Xavier had more money than he could reasonably spend in a lifetime, he was not very reasonable with it. He made horrible investments in companies that quickly went under and bought many cars, homes, yachts, private jets, and whatever else he wanted. Emmett was very concerned about his friend and worried that if he didn't get some help, he would end up getting into some trouble that he couldn't get out of. With starting this new expansion team, Emmett figured he could find a place on the staff for Xavier, hopefully keep him distracted from all the trouble he was prone to. Emmett went over to Xavier's house in Richmond to hopefully be able to offer him the position as the team's general manager. Emmett would start out making most of the decisions about the team and hopefully give Xavier more and more responsibility as he was able to prove himself. When Emmett arrived at Xavier's house, the housekeeper let him in and showed him where Xavier was, passed out on the bathroom floor after an all-night bender. Emmett woke Xavier up, got him some coffee, and they had a long talk about Xavier's lifestyle and how Emmett was worried about him. Ultimately, Xavier decided to take Emmett's offer to be the general manager, mostly because he had always looked up to Emmett in a way, and he hated to see how his current lifestyle was hurting his friend. After getting Xavier to agree to the general manager position, Emmett knew he had to get a solid staff around him, so he sought out looking to hire the best he could find. Unfortunately, when looking for an assistant GM, many of the candidates had heard of Xavier and his reckless nature, and many weren't interested in working with him. They ended up being able to sign Timothy Thomas, who was known for being a good trade negotiator and also had some potential to improve as well. At head coach, they hired Dion Blunt, whose balanced coaching scheme and potential to grow into a great leader impressed owner Emmett Grigson. At assistant coach, they were able to hire Lucas Green. His balanced coaching style and potential matched that of Dion Blunt and made them a great fit as coaches for this team. For head scout, Emmett knew he needed to get someone good, and he was able to bring in Cecil North. Emmett saw his scouting knowledge and immediately knew this would be a good scout to bring in the best talent for this team. Sean Lee was hired as the trainer. He showcased a unique and modern training system that appealed to Emmett, and he knew he must take a chance on this trainer's potential. And lastly, Ronnie Freeman was hired as the CFO. They had trouble finding many candidates who were interested, but Ronnie stood out. He had a lack of business skills and experience, but Emmett believed he could make up for it with his great determination he showcased in interviews and his inner will to succeed and help the team. Next, there was the expansion draft. Out of all the players available, one truly stood out to the entire staff, and that was Bol Bol. With his great potential, the team was surprised that Denver decided not to protect him, and head coach Dion Blunt made it clear to owner Emmett Grigson that they must take Bol Bol with the first pick. With the break in the season due to the coronavirus, Bol Bol had trained day and night to try and improve, and he did just that, showing improvements in defense, rebounding, and even scoring ability. When Bol Bol arrived at the first team practice, head coach Dion Blunt knew right away that moving him from center to power forward might be a great move. With his ability to stretch the floor and his pure size, strength, and athleticism, playing him at the 4 would be a great mismatch against opponents and would allow him to harness his skills in the best way possible. Over the off-season, Bol Bol worked even harder trying to adjust to his position change. He showed even more improvement and ultimately got moved into the team's starting lineup. With some of their other picks in the expansion draft, the staff decided they wanted to pick up some young role players with potential to improve, such as Aaron Holiday, Josh Hart, Robert Williams, Furkan Korkmaz, and Justice Winslow. And lastly, they wanted to pick up a few veterans who could mentor these young players: Andre Iguodala, Rudy Gay, and Boban Marjanovic. Next came the NBA draft. The Bobcats were slotted in the 5th pick, and were hoping they might get a top-tier player that could come in and contribute right away. The Atlanta Hawks had the first pick, and they decided to go with Anthony Edwards, the shooting guard from Georgia. Many saw him as the top player in the draft, so it was no surprise that the Hawks decided to pick him. With the 2nd pick, the New York Knicks decided to take a chance on LaMelo Ball. Showcasing great height and high potential, New York was obviously very interested in this point guard. However, they will have to hope that LeVar Ball doesn't get in the way of the team and his son's career. With the 3rd pick, the Chicago Bulls decided to go with Deni Avdija from Israel. A talented player and top prospect, but many people found it surprising that Chicago felt the need to pick him this early in the draft. With the 4th pick upcoming, the Richmond staff was hanging onto their seats. They had their eyes on drafting James Wiseman, and they felt if he fell to them at pick 5, it would be an absolute steal. They thought about trading up with the Oklahoma City Thunder, but decided to just hang tight and see who the Thunder would pick. They decided to pick RJ Hampton, the point guard from Australia. With an aging Chris Paul still on their team, the Thunder probably felt it would be a good idea to bring in a player like Hampton so he could be mentored by a potential Hall of Famer such as Chris Paul. And with the 5th pick, the Bobcats knew who they wanted: James Wiseman. With his great size, athleticism, and potential, they saw no need to think about this pick. They saw him as one of the best players in the draft and were ecstatic that he fell to them at pick 5. James Wiseman would be the newest center to join the Richmond Bobcats. Finally, with free agency, the Richmond Bobcats had 4 slots remaining to fill out their team. The first player they decided to sign was Goran Dragic on a 1-year, $12.82 million contract. They felt he had a solid skill set, and his veteran presence would be extremely valuable for mentoring their young point guard Aaron Holiday. Next, they decided to sign Joe Harris. His ability to come off the bench and shoot the 3 was something the Richmond coaching staff saw as highly valuable. Plus, he brought a veteran presence at small forward, so he could mentor a player like Justice Winslow. With their next signing, they went with someone younger, Malik Beasley. With his ability to score and his raw potential, the staff knew that they needed to try and bring him in. Malik was a restricted free agent, so Richmond did have to overpay him a little bit. Ultimately, he was signed to a 2-year contract worth $20 million and a 3rd-year team option. The final player Richmond felt they should give a chance to was DeMarcus Cousins. DeMarcus, once a star player in the league, had been riddled with injuries over the past few seasons. Signing with Richmond, he still wanted to showcase he had what it takes to be a star player in this league. Richmond gave him that opportunity to come in and be one of the best players on this team. They felt he could give some great veteran leadership to their newly drafted center, James Wiseman. With the offseason now complete, the Richmond Bobcats felt confident moving into training camp. Dion Blunt and the rest of the coaching staff put them through rigorous drills and training routines, but he believed they'd be better for it. With the team now together, the Richmond Bobcats were ready to take on the rest of the NBA. This is their time. This is the Richmond Bobcats story.